Hi once again. This video is for Defiler. So with Defiler, it's best to know the type of fight that you're going into. There's many different specs out there for Defiler, many different from mine. I currently have two myself. I know Bay in our guild has another Defiler spec. Um, it's very hybrid type of spec as well. Defiler in itself is, like if you actually look over the soul, it does say it's a healing soul. It does kind of pull some good DPS, um, and there's times where it's just really there as type of a support instead of actual heals. It does have a battle res when you're farther up, of course. Um, and as you can see, each point of Defiler increasing damage done by 1%, healing done by 0.5, absorbs by 0.5. So it has more damage, it gets more damage with points spent into it than it does heals. With just the passives from the soul itself. Um, so with NTE, well, and Nightmare Tide expansion, um, fights that I know with Tier 1 anyways, there is um, fights that need you to have unstable and fights that doesn't even matter if you have. Some raids and raid leaders would like the Defiler sometimes be able to have unstable if in case they needed that oh shit type of button. So 61 Defiler you should have if you have Defiler spec, and then make any other specs um, that you feel like making after you have a 61 Defiler. Um, because one of the best healing cooldowns in the game is the 61 Defiler called Unstable Transformation. What it does is reduces damage taken by 50%, increases healing and absorbs received by 50%, and when hit restores, well, with my stats currently, 10 to almost 11.5k health, lasts for 10 seconds. Um, so with the damage reduction and also the healing absorbed um, boost, it becomes a really great cooldown to help things live. Um, so if you're ever asked to go to Filer, just make sure if they need unstable or if they would like you to have unstable just in case. And then you know if you need to do the 61 Defiler or not. Because there's, as I said, many hybrid specs. Um, I run two. Pretty much what it is 61 Defiler, more oriented towards heals. And then I have a 58 Defiler for all four links. Um, pretty much high Defiler pretty much plays the same. It's just whether if you're healing or DPSing at times that change. Um, so with my heal spec Defiler, because for that 61 point ability unstable transformation, it's like, well, I might need to heal a little bit, so I put points in more heal-oriented souls. So I have 10 in Sentinel. Um, your 61 Defiler could have different souls, of course. As I said, it's very flexible type of soul, whether if you're 61 or any other point spreading Defiler. Um, so check on the forums, but this is what I run for my 61 Defiler. As 61 Defiler, this one won't pull as high as DPS as some other 61 Defilers, though, because, as I said, focus more on the Sentinel. Um, so specs, I'll find lots of specs and put them up on the guild forums, of course. But as I always suggest, when you make a spec is go through the talents, see how the talents change different things, because the tool tips don't always update or aren't always showing what all happens. Um, so it's really good to look over your talents, understand how they're interacting with abilities and your own stats, so that way you have a better understanding and a firmer grasp on the spec, so that way you can play it more to the full. to the full potential. So main thing of Defiler, other than the unstable transformation, is the fact that it can put 4 links up. You have your Link of Agony, which has been nerfed to be 20% intercept damage on the ally. And see here it says we take 19% of the intercepted damage. That, I believe, is not fully true because... There's a talent somewhere. See, this talent here, your links have a 300% based on 300% of the intercept percentage of link to apply foul growth. So with 20% times that by 300, you have, I think that's exactly what it means anyways. But anyways, you have chances to put your foul growth, so you actually heal passively as you damage. That's another kind of thing about this Defiler. Here, Scarred Heart. Reduces damage taken from your links by 30%. So, you're taking a lot less damage than these talents say. But, so our current links are a 5% link, 10% link, 15% link, and a 20% link. Main tanks will probably always take the 20% tank one, or an under-geared or slightly squishier tank would take that one instead as well. Always kind of good to know how your raid leaders want you to put up links, of course. The other thing is we have one ability, Pain Transmission. It's our hard-hitting ability. It's an AoE type damage ability, but what it does is it radiates around us, our beacon, and any of our link targets. So there's 6 places that Pain Transmission can hit from, and it hits up to 3 enemies near the cleric and the targets of the cleric links. As I said, it's also from your beacon. So that's why it hits so hard, is if we have, our 4 link targets are in melee range, even we are in melee range, and our beacon is right there on the boss too. The boss is going to take a shit ton of damage from being hit by all those pain transmissions. So if we're not really needed to heal, we focus on DPS, and even as I said, our DPS can apply foul growth. I'll get over into the abilities in a few seconds here. So you're kind of healing passively even as you DPS. Depending on how your spec is, you'll probably have a little bit different macros. So I have one that macro for unstable that shouted out. It's pretty much when I used it. You don't have to. You can just have an unstable macro or just have it on your bar. Your beacon technically is a buff, so if you need to cancel your beacon, this type of macro will despawn your beacon. Your beacon is kind of considered a pet, except for you don't have a dismiss button to kind of get rid of it. So the way you get rid of it is with /cancel buff summon Beacon of Despair. If you want to let people know that you're putting up your links and who they're on, you can make macros shouting out. Same with the battle res. We don't have an AoE cleanse, but we do have a single target cleanse. So cleanse macro, going through all the group to the last group member, is a good macro to have, so you can just spam cleanses. You kind of have 2 things that can, well, 3 total, but 2 are single target, triggering your foul growths. Ghastly Restoration, Loathsome Restoration. Ghastly has a cooldown, it's a bigger heal. So I just put those into a macro. With one of my specs, I have Cabalist with Pain Transmission, so for trash and stuff where there's lots of, Bound Fate from Cabalist. So trash packs where there's a lot of trash, I have an AoE macro that does a little bit more AoE damage because of Bound Fate. This one just has Section Heretic in it. That's the difference there. So really not too many macros, to be honest. But of course, people can make different ones depending on their specs. So for K-alerts that I have, I do have kind of a bit at times. So don't have to track all your bonds, but there are 3 bonds that you can put up before the fights. But if you do put them up before the fights, you got to be very careful, because if any of your linked targets use a self-damage ability like the Sacrifice Life for Planar Charge ability, they will proc your link, which then procs your bond, and then it will show you pulled the boss because you did damage. So you gotta be very careful of when you link, and if you put up bonds up on the target pre-pull. So I have a K-alert watching my bond. We have 3 bonds. Of course, you could make K-alerts to watch all 3 or to just watch 2. I just have 1, so that way when I refresh that one, I refresh my other ones if needed. Chimera's Gift, K-alert. Dark Water for my Cabalist, kind of spec 1. Husk is an intercept shield. It absorbs damage from your intercepted damage from your links. So it looks like you have an absorb shield, but really it only absorbs damage from your links, not from damage that is actually hitting yourself. So gotta be careful about that. It can trick some other healers as well, thinking you have an absorb shield, but you don't. Pretty much, since your links are always constantly taking damages, you want to refresh this when it's about to fall off, or you've absorbed enough damage that it does fall off. I have a K-alert to tell me when Pain Transmission is coming off cooldown. As I said, it's big DPS, so more often we can hit it and damage properly with it, the more, DPS we have. Siphon Vitality is a little hot we have, K-alert for that. Unholy Nexus is an ability that actually spreads some of our stuff to 5 other enemies that are nearby, so it helps us do some AoE. So depending on your spec, you'll have different off souls to do different things, of course. Inquisitor is always good, increasing spell power, plus as well giving the Armor Devotion buff, which increases our critical hit chance with damaging abilities, not our heal abilities, just our damaging ones. As well, gives us Vex, which is a hard-hitting dot. Not the hardest hitting dot, but hitting for 28k is pretty good. Considering our cast of 1.5 seconds is doing 18k damage instead. In comparison, 2-second cast time, Bolt of Judgment is 15k damage with my stats compared to our 1.5 cast 18k. So really, with 61 Defiler, you probably won't be using most abilities from the other trees. You'll pretty much, maybe, like as I said, Vex and take buffs. So in my Sentinel one here, get a couple buffs as well. Other than that, healing breath for a little spot heal. But because it's so hybrid oriented, or you can have many different off souls, mainly just talk over the fire parts of it. So as I said, Unholy Nexus, our Marrow Harvest, Siphon Vitality, and our bonds get spread to 5 other enemies. So 3 of our we only have 3 bonds. Um, Bond of Torment is damaging abilities restore health to the cleric. Bond of Pain being whenever we receive damage, we do a little bit of damage to the target of our Bond of Pain. And then Bond of Corruption doesn't work on bosses, can work in PvP, does work in PvP, and maybe some open world content is intercepts 10% of healing received on the enemy, and we receive 125% of the intercepted healing. So just a little healing debuff where we steal some health. That is, there's... So Unholy Nexus spreads those 3, plus as well the Marrow Harvest and Siphon Vitality. So we have the 4 links, which are buffs as well. We have Feast of the Fallen, which is a raid type of buff where when nearby party or raid members kill something, they get a little heal. More useful on trash stuff and fights where ads spawn a bit. For single target counter bosses, not that useful, but you know, instead of putting up or taking it off, it's just good to leave it on. 2, with being high Defiler, we don't care about Blighted Greed. The main reason for this is that we cannot cast Blighted Greed when we have active links. So if we put up a link, we can't use Blighted Greed. Blighted Greed is more for the hybrid type specs that or just have like 5 points in Defiler, where it imitates a link, but they don't receive any damage. They just have their Rage Blight stacks refresh and get up to max stacks. So the other buffs that we have, Grief Blight and Rage Blight, do different things. Both I think have max 5 stacks, yep. Rage Blight increases damage done by 4% for us for 10 seconds. We can get a max of 4 stacks. Or, sorry, 5 stacks. So that's 20% increased damage with Rage Blade up. I believe for the ones that just have 5 points in Defiler for their DPS souls only get a 5% increase. Compare that to Grief Blade. It increases our healing and absorption granted by 4% for 10 seconds, max 5 stacks. So either we're increasing our damage or increasing our healing done. You can easily switch between these in combat. Just, you know, click the other one, get some stacks, switch to the other one. Whenever you're damaged or your links take damage, because then that causes you to take damage, your blights trigger and you get a stack, of course. So with Defiler, you're always getting them to max stacks and keeping them at max stacks. As I said, Unstable Transformation, one of the best healing cooldowns in-game, reducing damage taken, increasing heals and absorbs taken, and whenever they're hit, they get a small proc heal for 10 seconds. If you want to look at it, this is what happens when they they get transformed. If they have a symbol on their head when they're transformed, the symbol kind of disappears. But people that have that unstable transformation turn to be a little bit ugly, as some people say. Sorry. Seeing a raid forming that I'd be interested in going. So I'll finish this up here, of course, but just linking them I achieved to hopefully get in. So we have our pet, which is our beacon. So that's what our beacon looks like. It is our pet, as you can see. It's an uncontrolled pet, just stands around. So that's why we have that cancel pet buff. Well, cancel summon Beacon of Despair. So that way, otherwise it lasts for 4 minutes. We have our Husk of Indifference, which I said just shields you from intercepted damage. I'll get into the healing bit. We have our Mana Regeneration, which reduces our max health by 5%, max 5 stacks, but restores 7% mana. So if you spam it past where you get the 5 stacks, you just go and stay at 75% health. So our damage one, Pain Transmission I talked about, does 3 enemies near each of your links, your beacon, and yourself. Does damage. With this 18k, it's 2-second cast time. Siphon Vitality is a dot, 27k death over 15 seconds, so little less damage than Vex from the Inquisitor, but it also counts as a heal, doing, well, almost 8k heal to us at the same time. Any of our heal abilities will refresh Husk of Indifference. That is some of the talent. So if you use Siphon Vitality, your Husk refreshes, as you just saw there with Caleb disappearing. Another thing is we have delayed damage dot, well, not really a dot, but delayed damage that it explodes after 6 seconds, dealing 21k. If a Mirror Harvest is already on the target, you cannot put another one on until that Mirror Harvest blows up. So with most macros about this is that you pretty much Mirror Harvest and then Somatic Desecration. So you put a little delayed, you then cast, and then refresh Siphon Vitality when needed. Whether you need to refresh the dot of Siphon Vitality or refresh it as your Husk of Indifference fell off. So then to get into the healing, Chimera's Gift is a 2-minute cooldown. It lasts for 5 minutes though. What it does is restores health equal to 25% of the cleric's maximum health. It's a self-buff only. And whenever we receive a killing blow, it triggers. So if this falls off, it means that technically we died and we're saved, and then we're at 25% health. Of course, we have our Battle Res, Death's Embrace. Jealous Intervention is our only cleanse. We have a hot called Hideous Reconstruction with my stats 22k health over 15 seconds. As I said, we have 2 restorations that trigger our Foul Growth. I'll kind of get into those. Ghastly, 15-second cooldown. Triggers our Foul Growths, which we can have 3 stacks of Foul Growth on a target. But it also, so it heals for the 3 foul growths, or however many stacks are on. And then also heals with my stats 13 to 14.5k. Loathsome Restoration does the same thing, triggering the foul growths, enabling them to heal. And then healing for 10 to 11.5k health. This one is spammable, of course. So foul growths, my stats, casting them is a 1.5 second cast time. Anytime your damage abilities damage, your linked targets have a chance to gain them from your talents. So really, you don't have to cast Foul Growth at all. Foul Growth is a delayed heal. So healing my stats 11k to just over 12k health after 10 seconds. or when the stacks fall off. If you keep on refreshing the stacks, they're not going to fall off, of course, and heal up. But because your damage abilities only have a chance to, they can explode and heal even with you just keep on damaging. Another thing that you can do is there is an instant cast explosive growth, which applies 3 stacks of foul growth. So if you need to do lots of spot healing, you can use explosive growth, Loathsome Restoration, explosive growth, Loathsome Restoration, or ghastly restoration if it's off cooldown. The only problem with that is casting foul growth is 425 mana. Casting explosive growth is 1530 mana. It's about almost 4 times the mana cost of foul growth, so it can eat up your mana pretty quickly that way. So really with practice done, you're not going to really see much DPS, of course. Pretty much want to try and always put your beacon down. It always kind of spawns slightly around where your target eye. So whether you want a friendly to stand somewhere so you can cast it, it will spawn nearby them. I think it tries to spawn behind. It's pretty much you want to keep up your Siphon Vitality, bonds, as I said in raid settings, Bond of Pain, Bond of Torment. Don't worry about the yellow one, Bond of Corruption, because bosses are immune to the health debuff. And you pretty much just want to cast a Meta Justification, and any time that Pain Transmission is off cooldown, use that. And of course, if your links are taking a lot of damage and you fall off, use a Siphon Vitality or Heal, the Hot, whatever to refresh your Husk of Indifference. Depending on your hybrid specs, your masteries could be different. Kind of Avenging Shield is kind of nice for your critical hits with damaging and healing abilities. Apply Absorb Shield to you, shielding you for 3% of your maximum health. I don't think there's anything else that is really worth it for us. Yeah, so pretty much like that's the best one for level 61 is just the shield. If you're healing a lot, maybe the Healing Remnant, applying stacks, increasing healing received by 1.5 per stack for max of 2 stacks, so 3% increased healing for your healing over time and absorb abilities that are on that. Of course, you'd have to be using Hideous Reconstruction a lot for that to matter. Other than that, Divine Inspiration, increasing our healing done and absorption done. Increasing the range of our non-melee damaging abilities. So this one makes us range a lot better and increases our healing, so that's the best one. Increased mana regeneration, maybe. With healing, Defiler is quite mana hungry. Damaging, they're not as much hungry. Also, this one does mediation. Does also when you cleanse, it will apply a second cleanse a couple seconds after. Other than that, face freedom, increasing our battle risk from 50% health return to 100% health. As well, if you're at least 8 points up into Inquisitor, applying Sanctioned Heretic would then apply Vex. But like 63, choose which one you feel best. A lot of combat situations, people can sometimes die if they only get revived at 50% health, so I kind of like the 100% health one myself. Of course, if you're doing lots of cleansing, mediation could probably be better. So 64 is really our main one where we start seeing something for Defiler more, where damage of dots and delayed damage abilities is increased. Same with our non-instant, non-channeled abilities, but as well increases the chance for rampant growth to apply foul growth by 10%. So our links have a 10% more chance to receive our foul growths. So our foul growth should be getting applied a lot more often than before with this talent. Other than that, it was increased damage by 5% with Diversify, damage by 7, crit chance by down by 4 though. Instant channeled abilities, applying a stack to reduce our next cast time. Depending on what you need to do, I would suggest one of two abilities. If you need to heal a lot at times, Divine Providence, which then allows you to cast Divine Favor on 3 targets, would be really good. I believe Foul Growth healing does proc the Divine Favor. Otherwise, you could have Soul Stream, where Soul Stream does 2 different channels. One is a heal and one is damage. So if you need to damage, you can just target the boss and use it as damage ability. Otherwise, if you need to use it as a big heal ability, you can target the friendly and heal them. So very versatile that way. As you can see, as what I'm picking at the moment is that. So the only other Defiler spec I have, as I said, is my 58 one for when I don't need unstable. And this one is my 8 Inquisitor, 10 Kabbalist. And of course, when I apply Sanctioned Heretic with that Mastery, it applies Vex. I have Bound Fate for extra AoE damage, of course. Other one, Masters are all the same. Playstyle is the same again. It's just that we're missing the Unstable Transformation buff. Defiler can easily heal 5-mans quite nicely. You can use it as a main heal soul for that. So, pick up a Defiler spec, practice it. If you have the gear and you're, can easily heal as Puri through all the dungeons, try changing up a little and use Defiler to practice it. Take a Defiler spec out and use it. As I said, it is very hybrid oriented. You can make very many different specs. So check forums. Guild forums will have a few. Bay has put up hers. I'll put up a couple myself. So just check back and see. Hope this was very informative for you. And if you use Defiler, I hope that you have fun playing it. You can try and get quite a lot of DPS out of it, especially on different fights. I remember in EE back in Storm Legion on Matriarch, because all the ads spawn, I was pulling more DPS than some DPS. And they saw me with a heal symbol because I was using my 61 Defiler one that has the Sentinel, which actually allows it to be the heal symbol. And they would be like, how in the world is this healer pulling so much damage? So it's quite amusing for me to make people think a healer was beating them in DPS. So yeah, have fun playing it. I hope you do enjoy it. It is not a free soul though. You need to have the Storm Legion souls to have Defiler. Oracle is the other non-free soul, which is the Nightmare Tide souls. So they're not the free souls. You have to buy them, purchase the soul packs to unlock the souls. But otherwise, have fun, take care, and hopefully you enjoy this.